Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Taylor Overton. I, up until last Monday, was the Director of Small Business and Entrepreneurship for the state of Kansas. I created the office from the ground up. Our governor decided, or maybe realized, we didn't have any supports formally for small businesses and entrepreneurs in the public sector within the Department of Commerce. And so I am a Kansan born and raised, and I did not raise my hand for the role. I was hounded and followed, and they just said, hey, we need somebody with lived experience to do this thing and to build it. So I stepped away on Monday, and I've received a lot of questions as to why. And the reason is the World Cup. The World Cup is coming. There are 16 host cities, and I really want to avoid the Olympic effect. I don't want this to be something that plummets our economy. I want to welcome those visitors in. I want all their money, and I want to make sure that our small businesses are positioned to absorb the increase and the tourism, the visitors. So that's really what we're going to talk about in this. A part of the strategy before I left the state of Kansas was to identify who are the small businesses within our ecosystem that are really, really just going to go crazy around the World Cup. And one of those is Cypher. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But then I had to figure out, what is the model? What are we taking to market? And so then that brings in National Bankers Association Foundation. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. Can you please give an introduction, who you are, what you do, and what brought you to Kansas to say yes to these wonky ideas that we have?
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming to visit with us. It's an honor to be here. So I'm Chris White. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the National Bankers Association Foundation. For those of you that are not aware, there are 153 minority-owned banks in the country. These are FDIC-insured institutions. They're in 43 states and hold about $380 billion in total assets. Unsurprisingly, they do an enormous amount of lending in communities of color, helping meet needs around housing, education, healthcare, the arts, and small business, or the hee-haws, as we sometimes refer to them. But these businesses, the businesses that we serve, and obviously we lend to everybody, they're FDIC-insured federal banks, but many of the small businesses that our banks serve do not have access to or relationships with mainstream banks. So back during the pandemic, you may remember there was a program called the Paycheck Protection Program, where basically it was a grant program but administered through the banking sector. Our banks provided funding to over 270,000 small businesses that did not have mainstream banking relationships, putting more than $16 billion in funding into communities that are often marginalized and left out of the mainstream financial sector. So we're very focused on economic mobility, keeping the American dream alive. And speaking of which, Taylor and I were both invited to speak at the opening of Mike Milken's new Center for Advancing the American Dream earlier this year. And that was really where our paths first crossed. And we've been doing this work to connect capital markets and communities through our banks for quite a while. And when I became aware of the World Cup opportunity, it was a natural fit. We know that there are small businesses in each of these host cities that don't have access to the capital that they need to prepare. And so we've basically figured out a way, working with Citi, to issue impact fixed income securities. So basically impact bonds, economic mobility bonds that provide funding from local investors to small businesses in their backyard. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
So hello. Thank you for waiting a few minutes for me. Who would have thought? I thought a 12:45 flight was fine. It wasn't. So Cypher is really going to be the layer that what Chris is here representing is wide-reaching infrastructure, and Cypher is really the data layer to that, the software layer. So we're a financial readiness software. We originally launched to help small business owners understand their finances. Pretty simple, we thought. But it's actually much harder than it seems. I thought. It's actually much harder than it seems, because just running a business and seeing the day-to-day and making sure the bills are paid does not mean that you actually understand your financial situation, that you understand your business, and that you're ready to take on more capital or to grow. And a lot of small business owners struggle in that area, so we thought, let's find a way to create a software to do this automatically. So we launched helping see your financials from a different perspective, to see where the gaps and the strengths are, to see cash flow forecasts, and to be able to pull together a full packet for loans. And then we met Taylor a little bit after that, and we were shifting to realize we can make much more impact by working with all of the banks, by working with governments, even to push out to entire cities, so that you can see, where do business owners stand in your ecosystem, because a lot of times this isn't an individual business owner problem, this is an ecosystem and infrastructure problem. So yeah, Cypher is partnering with state of Kansas to push that out to their financial institutions and to the business owners in the state, so that we can really create that financial impact, and partnering with NBA to do the same. So just here to talk about how that readiness component really plays into economic mobility.
Yeah, if I can just piggyback a little bit on why Cypher was such an important partner for us to identify and collaborate with. Many people don't know this, but doing small business loans, by small dollar I mean $100,000 and less, is actually very expensive and potentially a money-losing proposition for banks. It takes a long time to underwrite these loans, and that time has to be paid for. You don't want to end up charging predatory interest rates to recoup that. And so having technology that can make our processes more efficient and meet people where they are and kind of walk them through that journey of putting their packet together saves our lenders so much time. And it actually allows us to bring down the cost of originating loans so we can actually put more money out the door without it being something that our lenders don't want to do. We make the lender's job easier making those loans, and then therefore we're able to more profitably extend credit into communities that are often cut off. So thank you very much for creating that infrastructure and for reducing those barriers.
So I always give Alea a hard time that she doesn't explain what they do well enough, so I'm going to champion it for her. So when we actually, not to get too sappy, but today's our anniversary. We met exactly 1 year ago at what is called a MasterCard Strive Summit. MasterCard came to the state of Kansas, and they were focused on an abundance mindset. And I was like, I mean, we're totally abundant. I would love to have you come talk to us. And so through that, they brought Cypher. They said, hey, you have this company we've invested in your backyard. We have given them access to tons of MasterCard data. Let's create something. Let's have them work with the state directly to support your small businesses, to foster entrepreneurship-led economic development. And so that's when we really started working together 365 days ago. And
I love that you know that, by the way.
I put it in my phone. Yeah. And so as we were creating what Cypher is, we wanted to solve those challenges that banks were telling us that they were having, of like, we just don't have any businesses in your market that have that fit our criteria. Well, what's your criteria? So we are attracting and we're bringing in lenders to tell us, what is your Sally? You know, what's the persona that you're looking for? You don't do startups? Great. We're not going to send you another loan package from a startup. You prefer somebody who, whatever it might be, builds that persona. We put it into the system. The second thing that it does is it gives a readiness score. I love Credit Karma. I'm on there daily. This is Credit Karma, but for starting a business, for running your business. And so from 0 to 100, it will show you your readiness, and it will show you steps that you can take to increase the likelihood you would be approved for that loan. As more lenders onboard into the system, then that improves. And ultimately, what we will use it for is to match small businesses based on their likeliness of getting approved, from what the lenders have told us, from the MasterCard proprietary banking data we have, all of this to expedite the loan process for the small businesses. Lenders love it, small businesses love it, and then I also love it from a policymaker standpoint, because that so much of what we hear is, hey, you're placing capital into communities and it's not moving. It's just sitting with the organization accruing interest. but never really reaching the small business. So it puts that layer of accountability to say, hey, we've actually pipelined 50 entrepreneurs to you, and only two of them were approved. So let's rebuild that persona. Let's talk about what incentives look like from the state's perspective. What do you need from us to actually fund these entrepreneurs? Because we know all net new jobs are created by our small businesses in the state. So I need you guys doing more work for them. So that's what Cypher does. You're welcome.
You.
I'll give you my Venmo later.
High overview. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Chris, I'm going to pass it back to you. I want to talk about the Economic Mobility Bond Initiative. Can you walk us through what is it and how does it work?
Sure. So for those of you who are perhaps not familiar with the different pools of capital that are around the globe, let me kind of put some things in context. So the total assets of all foundations in the U.S. Is typically quoted around 1.6 trillion. Right? That means that philanthropy roughly is doing about $100 billion a year in grants and program-related investments.
That should solve all of our problems. Like they
Not
just need
at
to do
all.
a better job mobilizing it.
No, it's tiny. It's tiny. If you think about the challenges that we're facing as a society, affordable housing needs $200 to $400 billion a year, depending on whose estimates you look at. The National Bureau of Economic Research highlighted that between white founders and black founders of small businesses, there's a $100,000 difference in the amount of capital they have to start up with. That's a reflection of historical American yada yada, right? But if we were to fill that gap, there are 3.1 million small businesses owned by people of color in the U.S. Putting $100,000 of equity or even friends and family capital into each of those businesses, that's like $3.1 trillion that's needed. Philanthropy can't do that. I think I did my math right on that one. But philanthropy can't do that. What philanthropy can do is unlock access to the largest pool of capital on the globe, the $133 trillion bond market.
What?
Yeah, so $133 trillion. It's the largest pool of capital on the globe by far. By the bond market, we mean the bonds that are sold by corporations, by municipals, by sovereign governments, right? And so what we're doing is we're tapping into that market on behalf of communities for the first time in U.S. history. We're doing it directly. So working with Citigroup, our foundation sets up special purpose entities in each of the markets where we're located. The governance structure of those SPEs is reflective of the local community. So local family offices, foundations, entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship support organizations, our member banks, which is what allows me to do this, all have a voice in the balance of power that governs these SPEs. Yeah. Oh.
You wanted to plug something about the market.
Oh, I was going to wait for you to finish.
No, go ahead.
But,
Go ahead. We're just riffing. Go ahead.
I was going to insert something because the statistics about white founders and founders of color, it is absolutely, there's inequity in the system. There's a lot of bias when you walk in, but it's definitely not because those businesses are less qualified or they may be less prepared and they may be facing bias the second that they walk in and sit down at like a relationship banker. And that's why it's so important for business owners. I'm assuming most people in this room are business owners. Okay.
How many people in this room own a business? Okay.
Most of you guys.
How many people don't?
But want to.
What do you do? Shout it out to us. Work with a business owner. Shout out you. Net new jobs.
There you go.
What else do we have?
Economic development and startup support.
Beautiful.
Love
We need
that.
more of you.
Did-
Capacity building and capital access programs for ESOs.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
Love that.
We have a good mix.
Anybody else that's different? Okay. Tech startup support. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really helpful. I forgot to kind of ask who was in the room, so that's really helpful to guide this. But it's about what you're presenting. So when you walk into a bank, if you have founders of color tend to look a little bit different on paper. They may have a lower credit score, and that's just statistics. And when they see a lower credit score, there's a bias that comes in immediately, and they deny that loan. I mean, they don't look at anything else. The reason why we're trying to paint a more holistic picture and to get more loans across the finish line, and why this software has been helpful in doing that, is because there are so many other factors to consider. So if you're looking at your cash flow holistically, if you are looking at operational readiness and legal soundness, those things really come into play. So if you walk in, there are things that you can fix really simply, like constructing a story around your cash flow, or making sure your Secretary of State filings or your annual filings, your Delaware annual reports are done. Those are things that are going to lock you out of loans and large events that you need to be ready for, that can be addressed simply if you're just aware of it and ready. I'm so sorry.
I've noticed that there's like this weird energy between people at this conference and people from Ohio. I don't really understand what it is, but I'm not going to dig into it. I do want to say that the entire state of Ohio is the second state in the nation after Kansas to actually engage with Cypher. So just floating that in the ecosystem. So when we created the model, we called it Spotlight Kansas. I modeled it after when McDonald's would like shine that spotlight in the sky, like in the 90s, and you knew where you were going for hot and fresh fries. The small business knows where they're going for support, for resources. And so Ohio is going to be launching Spotlight Ohio. And so that's really powerful for us because we don't want to own any of these things. We don't want to take them and not share how we did it. And so to see it replicated in another market and about to be launched, that's huge. So I don't know if that could help with football scores or not, but you should try it. Yeah, I have no clue. I know, I watched the game. I know. Missouri and Kansas
fired.
is nah. But all jokes, I know, right?
Kansas are the same.
All jokes aside, it's when we're looking at what is done well, we look to Ohio, we look to Indiana, we look to Michigan, right? There's a lot of support for entrepreneurs in the heartland, in the Midwest. And so these strategies that are created by small businesses from the Midwest, I think need to be told. And so that's one of the things that we have committed to as a state of Kansas is really telling the story of the small businesses doing the work. So Chris, back to you for the economic mobility bond.
Yeah, and I'll be concise for once in my life. But
No, we like to hear it.
yeah, so having laid that background of what the bond market is and the size of the challenges that we're facing as a society around issues of social determinants of health, justice, et cetera, what we're doing is allowing communities to tap into the bond market directly. So what does that look like? Our foundation sets up, I think I started down this path, an SPE for each of the markets and each of the programs that we're engaged in. These deals are structured by Citigroup's Global Markets and City Ascent Capital. We have a City Ascent Capital alum here with us, great to meet you. And basically, we set up this SPE. It issues bonds to investors in the local community. So in Kansas City, we're talking with folks like the Kauffman Foundation. And I don't know if they loaded up the slides, so I don't have control over that. But the bonds are sold to investors. It can be family offices, foundations, corporates, regional banks, et cetera. They get a credit wrap from either a corporate or a foundation so that it de-risks it. The funds flow through to community lenders, so my banks, which are called MDIs or Minority Depository Institutions, as well as CDFI loan funds and other community lenders, who then make loans down to the small businesses, the entrepreneurs that are oftentimes having challenges accessing capital. One of the programs that Taylor helped steward in Kansas is something called the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which is basically federal dollars that can be used to de-risk loans to small businesses. So we're pulling in these different risk management mechanisms, first loss reserves, basically trying to make it as difficult as possible to say no on a small business loan. And there's also, this place-based dimension where, investors want to invest their money in their own community, right? So you may have already gone through your philanthropic giving for the year, but you have a portfolio of municipal bonds, corporate bonds, what have you. Well, you know what? Swap that out for an economic mobility bond that invests in small businesses in your own backyard. And that's effectively what we're doing.
Perfect. And so, Alea, question for you: How has Cypher come alongside this? What is important about the technology being a part of pipelining? And as this is rolled out across the nation, how do you see Cypher staying involved and supporting other ecosystems?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer this in a roundabout way because I've been having some really good conversations around it. I think the software and the technology is important in general for all the reasons that I mentioned, that if you just say, here's a bucket of money to a city or state, it's very hard to just go lend that money out. I spent a lot of my career watching those faulty loans come across my desk where we just bundle up and sell them. And I really wanted to be on the other side. Oh, was that quiet? Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I really wanted to be on the other side of helping to make sure that we're extending money in a way that makes sense and is actually equitable and making an impact. So I think that the software brings that data component and brings us into, this modern day and age. So there's something really interesting happening with AI in general that they're calling the Great Divide. But it's happening so rapidly that it's basically undoing decades of closing the gap between upper and lower classes. That's a lot of things: who controls the data, who understands the data, and who has access to it. So bringing access to technologies like the one Cypher's honing, so machine learning and AI, to help you, a small business owner, bring it all the way down to them, to understand your business and to be able to present your business in a way that it's sustainable, it's fundable, and creates that economic impact is really where we're trying to sit. So I hope that the work that NBA and other foundations are doing is amplified by integrating this software and making it and really revolutionizing the way that we lend money.
Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, a little bit of another dimension to the data part of this is that investors want to know the impact of what they're putting money into. And there are International Capital Markets Association standards for what constitutes a green bond or a social bond. And data transparency is very, very important, and that's the sort of thing that data can help us provide those insights to the investors so that they know that their money is being put to use in the ways that they intended, rather than something being greenwashed or social washed.
I love that. Thank you. So, Chris, next question for you. How is this model really innovating ecosystems, or will it innovate ecosystems once it launches? And what are you hopeful to find ahead of the launch? I know the launch is early in the new year, but are there still things that what type of people are you hopeful to engage with? Are you still family offices? And then, how can small businesses get involved and advocate for this model? Yeah,
so a couple of things are rolled in there, and I won't be able, my short-term memory is not good enough to be able to
tease all
those out.
How is this an innovative model? How is this an innovative model?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is this is actually not something new. We're just applying something that already exists to a new context. So blended finance and bringing together different funders and tranches with different appetites for risk is something that's been done in the international space for decades, right? Like development finance, they do this cross-border all the time. What we're doing is applying these same techniques to what we sometimes refer to as domestic emerging markets. Right? And that's really what we're doing. We're also moving at a scale that historically CDFIs and MDIs have never engaged with before. A lot of the folks that we're engaging with have minimum deal sizes of 250 million. There are not many community lenders that can prudently absorb that kind of capital. However, by taking the approach where we're aggregating the needs of ecosystems of small businesses and partnering with credible intermediaries at the community level, we're able to aggregate that need and then sell paper that aligns with that need at the scale that's needed. What's also interesting about this is one of the barriers that has prevented community lenders from engaging with capital markets historically is that it's wildly expensive. right? And so our foundation is fronting about 1.4 million just to cover transaction costs, legal, structuring, placement, getting a second party opinion from Moody's, all of these things. But what we're doing is making that framework available to others in a way that they don't have to then pay those same costs, right? So you might have to hire local attorneys to tailor it to nip and tuck and change the paperwork a bit so that it meets your specific use of proceeds and your specific context, but you don't have to pay 1.4, right? And that's something that we think will be transformative. Again, removing barriers to opportunity. Obviously, we do the non-reliance letters so we don't get sued. We're like, hey, we'll give you this ugly stack of paper, but have your own people look at it, right? So anyway, a little disclaimer, because there's always a securities attorney in the office, in the audience somewhere.
Is there always
who's
one?
like,
I don't know.
yeah, or
right.
sometimes they're mine and they try to tackle me. They're like, stop talking. None of this is a solicitation, by the way.
That's so funny. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Are there any projects you're working on in Michigan with any of the institutions here that you can talk about? Maybe
Not yet.
anything related to maybe EV infrastructure?
I had some interesting conversations over dinner last night with the CEO of a company called Slate. These are like EV trucks, which very interesting. Okay, it was new information to me. So there may be some opportunities there, particularly around charger infrastructure in what we sometimes refer to as charging deserts, right? And so that's one thing that we're toying with, but it's still very new, very embryonic.
This is very random, but if anyone is interested in that space, that's my background and would be more than happy to support. I spent a lot of time at Tesla.
There's a founder here who's building in that space. See what she said.
You out there? Okay. Hey, so would love to connect and be supportive in any way I can. I saw another hand. Yes.
How many of the funds that you put together are out there? 'Cause it sounds phenomenal as a funding vehicle. So where are you in terms of like how many jurisdictions or states or whatever? And then is there a lot of interest in?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
I'll kick us off. So it's launching in Kansas. So this started when Mike Milken brought Chris and I together to open the Center for Advancing the American Dream earlier in the fall. And so I just told Chris, like, this is my 3 a.m. problem. This is what keeps me up at night is the World Cup. We have so many businesses that need to start preparing. And so that was a very fast hand. And so I started working with Chris to figure out how we can do this. We went to Kauffman and brought the idea to the Kauffman Foundation. We then reached out to the International Economic Development Council, GEN, Global Entrepreneurship Network, and started convening who are the partners that we need to have at the table if this thing is going to launch. And then, so we're looking to launch in January, February in the state of Kansas, and we want to do a regional approach. We don't want to have really hard guardrails to where a Michigan company that is coming down to help us and support the World Cup couldn't leverage those funds. If you have a coffee truck and you need 5.5 million cups or something, what are the things that you would need? So with the Cypher platform, we're loading in everything we know about the World Cup. Actually, tomorrow is the draft. So there's a ton of more data coming down. And so when these founders are looking at, is this an opportunity that fits for me? Okay, now what does that inventory look like? What does the workforce needs look like? So they can make very accurate capital asks. So this will all launch January, February in Kansas. And then we're looking for other markets that are interested. But all 11 host cities ahead of the World Cup will have the opportunity to engage, and non-host cities just wanting to mobilize. Did that answer your question?
It did, and then I was also talking about how that circles up with the fund, right? Because the fund is independent on how you're collaborating in a state with city or another, just a major bank to make the funds to fundraise, right? And then to make them available.
Yeah.
How does that feed in? So
Yeah.
data needs funding, then how do you come in and what is that interest? Because again, it seems like such an efficient way to do it.
Yeah. So the economic mobility bond version of this, so the structure is sort of agnostic as far as what the funds can be used for, right? And so every investor has, and every foundation has a different area of focus, right? Some folks care about affordable housing. Where we're seeing the most traction at the moment, and hopefully this won't be provocative or contentious, but is around some of the climate work. Right, so we're working with a group of 200 family offices out of New York with about $1 trillion in assets under management to do climate bonds. Right, there was that whole greenhouse gas reduction fund thing that got pulled back, tied up in litigation. We were supposed to get part of $1 billion around that. It died, but the lenders had identified pipelines of deals in low-income communities. I think we had like a $1.5 billion pipeline. If we realize just 25% of that, then that's like a ton of deals around energy efficiency, solar, et cetera. And so we're pushing forward a $250 million deal, because that was the minimum deal size for this group. And that is, we hope, going to close Q1 of this coming year.
And for the economic mobility bond, how are we fundraising for that?
Yeah, so this is, the approach that we're taking is one where we're saying, look, this is something that we are doing. We are not doing bilateral meetings. We're doing dinners. We're having convenings. So, Kaufman will be pulling together a whole bunch of stakeholders into a single room, doing a one-day design charrette. We basically say, look, have your decision makers in the room, because time is not on our side. The games are June, July of this coming year. So, this is what we're going to do. So be prepared to make a decision in the room. And, if you're with us, great. If you're not, take care, but we're not going to be going back and forth and dragging feet.
And so that's really a part of, our visit here, is to engage with those that are here in Michigan to understand what the heck is about to hit the Midwest relative to the World Cup. How can we foster an abundance mindset across our ecosystems? And so if there is a family office, if there is a foundation, if there is, a champion here in Michigan that is wanting to position entrepreneurs to be able to mobilize around this huge opportunity, and then let's replicate it again for LA 28. Let's do it again for the Winter Olympics in 2034. We're then creating a strategy around how we mobilize ecosystems around major sports and entertainment initiatives. But it doesn't just have to be that. But we've just seen so much momentum with, what Bad Bunny did in Puerto Rico, what Beyonce does anytime she takes a deep breath, Taylor Swift around Kansas City. And so this is really a strategy that can help for that.
And can I add to that really quickly?
Yes. And then I'm coming to your question, I swear.
I know that we're talking about World Cup, and we're talking about how we're out of time, which makes it feel like when we're coming into new markets, is there time to mobilize anything in this new state, new market, working through a bond or a fund? But I think really the point of why we're trying to speak to so many people is even if you're late, which we are all late, that's just a fact, we're late. Through no fault of anyone's.
It's mine. The state moves very slow.
I just meant in general, everyone is late. Every city is late. They're just starting to plan for this. And this is this huge economic moment. But even when that passes, it sets up businesses with the infrastructure, the knowledge, the capital, the improved business processes, so that it really ripples out into the ecosystem. So even if these things don't get into place until 2 months before World Cup, which I hope is not the case, but feels realistic, probably, the more business owners, ESOs, lenders that you can get to take a hard look at the ecosystem to see where is this going to break. If we throw $1 million a day into this, where is it going to break? Which companies are going to come out ahead? Where are we going to expand? And what is going to really fuel the growth for this ecosystem over the next 5 years? Because that is what can happen if you're prepared, both on the ecosystem side and the small business owner side. So,
legacy outcomes, they're going to be huge. Okay, yes.
Hi, I'm Matt Larson with Vanley. We're Airbnb, the parking spaces for RV owners in Redmond.
Okay.
Talking to Dallas and LA about the World Cup coming. We have 144 hosts in all 8 cities. So Taylor, I want to become best friends here after speaking again.
Applications are open right now, so you're in luck.
But what we're talking with them, I'm preaching the choir here as you're preaching the choir over here, but we're trying to cities want to hear, the loopholes with improvement districts and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And I can even go a step further. I've been collaborating across all of the host cities, and so I can make warm introductions for you to the decision makers, so that you're able to tell exactly who you need to about what you do. And then if there's any support you need with identification of spaces, of all of that, happy to help you navigate that. And to everybody in this room, that's what we're hopeful to do. Who are the companies that we need to mobilize from the Midwest around this thing? When the World Cup was brought to me 2.5 years ago, we were in a meeting I will never forget, and the FIFA organizing committee, it's called KC26, they looked at me and said, this 26 days is going to make millionaires in your community and in this region, and you have the ability to foster that, to spread that gospel, or you have the ability to be the biggest barrier to that. Which one are you going to be? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't mean to be a barrier. But when we look at the draft that we hosted, that was the lowest economic weekend for small businesses since COVID in the state of Kansas. That is absolutely unacceptable to me. And so that helping you be able to mobilize around the World Cup, I watched a young lady sit right here, I forget her name, and she said, if you want to be a founder, a high growth founder, if you want to create something, if you want to be the 1% of founders, you got to go to the coast. I think that we've created the false narrative around what the coast can do for small business, what the coast can do for our founders. And I think that we perpetuate that down to our youth. I think that you can stay right here and we can be champions of you. And we can ensure that the best of the best comes out of the Midwest. That sounds fun. The best of the best comes out of the Midwest. But that's, yeah.
I think that's a mic drop moment.
You know,
It is, I know.
these are expensive. I actually found that out. That was a very expensive mic drop. So I do think that it is on us, though, to ensure that we are championing that and we are engaging with each other as entrepreneurs in an entrepreneurial way. I don't want to hear what you do and then just like keep it in my brain. There's a ton of stuff in there that's not worth anything, but I do know the people to connect you to. So if that makes sense. So thank you for that. Yes.
Yes, so the economic mobility bond, what's the advantages or incentives using that as opposed to like a family office or a foundation putting money directly into a CDFI?
Can I start?
Go for it.
Let me tell you. Okay, so I'm going to answer it in a roundabout way. In the state of Kansas, everyone and their mother is an impact investor now. It's just like our new favorite word. And so everyone's starting to like make impact investments without due diligence. It's wild. So this creates a space where they're able to like do their impact investing. They're able to feel their social fantasies. And it's a safe, proven way, right? And so for a family office that is wanting to engage in this, this ensures accountability that those dollars are actually making it to the small business. When we have placed dollars directly with CDFIs, they just are sitting there. And they're saying, well, there aren't qualified small businesses. There's not, they didn't fit the lending parameters. And so then that results in, in the state of Kansas, a really interesting metric. We hate I can say that. We hate CDFIs in the state of Kansas, and I don't know why. And so
Not the CDFIs that are also MDIs, but go ahead.
I'm just saying we hate it.
Side eye.
No, you're good. But because of that, the last time it was reported out, I think it was like 2020 through 2023, we deployed $160 per capita to small businesses of CDFI dollars. The national average is $780. Missouri did like $690. Nebraska, we've never lost to Nebraska in anything. Like Nebraska even did more than us. And so this really creates accountability through the community governed special purpose entity. Those are ESOs that know the reality. Look, Alea's community bank, you don't serve small businesses. You aren't showing up for us, so you're not going to receive that capital infusion. However, here are the things that you can do to be more small business centric. And so that accountability layer and the ability to show the family offices, the foundations, whomever, the impact investors, those dollars will make it where they are intended to go. Please.
This accountability layer, you're saying it's like the people that are already on the ground that are already aware of who moves money and who doesn't, or the decision-making process.
Yes.
Of whether or not it's deployed.
Correct. They're the governing body. And so this is one of the first times that, at least that I've been aware of, that we are putting entrepreneurial support organizations into a governance role. When I think of the ESOs in the state of Kansas, they're just looking for grants. They're barely making it by, and they're not focused on the organizational structure of their own organizations because they're trying to serve the small businesses. And that is what gets them more grant dollars. By connecting them with capital markets, we're not just looking at grants, we're diversifying how we fund the organizations that train the entrepreneurs. So that is a really powerful result of this model as well, is really mobilizing those that are doing it and doing it dang well. Okay. What'd you say? See, these are my people. I love Grand Rapids. Like, I'm telling you, I've made some really cool friends here. Okay, any other questions before we go on? Okay, how am I doing on time?
I think. Yeah,
Oh,
we
that's
we started
phenomenal.
a little
Okay,
late,
well,
but
if there's no
yeah.
other questions, Chris, is there anything else? Final words, thoughts?
Now, my bankers would shoot me if I didn't say we're always happy to take deposits. All right, like no bank is gonna say no, we don't want your deposit. But those are limited, right? Whereas again, capital markets, bond portfolios are much larger than like the cash that folks have on hand. So it's a matter of scale.
What banks do you have in the Midwest or Michigan that can take the deposits?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So Liberty Bank and Trust, it's a $1.2 billion Black-owned bank. First Independence is actually based in Detroit. They're fantastic.
Liberty has an office there.
Yeah, Liberty does as well. And then down in Kansas, we've also got CBW. And there's also many of our native banks are in Oklahoma. So there's like Native American Bank, they're a member of ours. So there is a website, the FDIC. If you go to the FDIC's website and look up minority depository institutions, you'll see the entire sector pop up on a really handy map.
And Chris, one more time for the people in the room, can you please just say, what is the size of the grants market? And then what is the size of the market, the capital markets that we are connecting for the very first time in history to community solutions?
Yeah, so roughly every year there's $100 billion in grant flows from U.S. foundations into communities across all the issues that they deal with. The bond market globally is $133 trillion of capital. So that's the only pool of capital on the globe that's really going to be able to respond in a meaningful way and really move the needle on many of the challenges that we're facing as a society.
And for us to make millionaires in our market, connecting with markets, with capital markets is a really good way for us to do that. And so last thing, Alea, do you have any final thoughts or things you want to say to our new friends in Grand Rapids and beyond?
To our new friends in Grand Rapids. I'm excited to have more conversations outside of my home ecosystem, Kansas City and Missouri. So anyone that's open to do that, we talked about the impact that I hope that that this initiative has nationwide. The readiness scoring that we're going to bring, which we're launching a universal score that'll be similar to a Credit Karma or a credit score. So. Oh, I keep forgetting. So yeah, launching that. So there's one standard that business owners and lenders can look to understand small businesses in a really unique way outside of credit score. That's the impact I'm hoping that this initiative will have. So anybody that wants to chat about that, please find me.
Last thing I will say, Alea is giving Judy Garland because she keeps like doing this number. And if anybody has ever seen Judy Garland, so that's what I'm going to call you from now on. But thank you everyone for attending this chat and letting us be ourselves. Appreciate you guys.